For 60 years, Moroney's Harley-Davidson has catered to motorcyclists in the area. Through hard economic times, the dealership has managed to survive. 60 years in business is something to be proud of, and it's something to celebrate. Today, we are at Moroney Harley-Davidson in New Windsor to talk with owner Pat Moroney about the company's history and longevity on this episode of My Ride Garage. Pat, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, you know,
you're
it's
a staple in the motorcycle industry in Orange County.
I try to be catered to everybody. Yeah. We are here because of the 60th anniversary of Moroney's.
All right.
And I know for a fact that your father didn't always start out with motorcycles. Give it a little back history of how this whole huge company started.
Anyway, when he got back to Newburgh, like a lot of people that were in the Army, even like the Hells Angels, they needed something pretty wild to come back to because they were just used to being at a level of adrenaline every day, and motorcycles seemed to fit that for him. And basically, he went to work for the Harley dealer, who was Cobra Line in downtown Newburgh, and became, one of the, a good mechanic, and really he had a personality with people as well. So Cobra Line really liked him because of his personality and his salesmanship, and back then everything was mom and pop. Everything, it was only 2 or 3 people in a lot of dealerships. So he got to learn the parts, the sales, pretty much the whole dealership. Cobra Line at that point was probably about 60 years old, 65 years old, and he was looking to retire to Miami. And another note, at that time, we were getting into the late 60s where a lot of Harley riders were building choppers.
Yeah.
And my dad, for whatever reason, hated choppers. Even though I'm building one right now. I'm building a 60s chopper.
Oh, nice.
Building all kinds of, but he hated choppers. He liked stock bikes. He liked dirt bikes. He liked racing. The chopper thing with the long hair and the the smoking pot and that whole thing. He's just popping acid. He just wasn't into any of that. From there, my dad, we got into the 70s and he got me into racing motorcycles, which.
And you still race today?
I've actually started racing cars, but from 1974 to about 1984, I raced professional. I was pretty much the fastest guy on the East Coast. I had 5 national numbers. I was ranked top 10 in the country for a bunch of years. I was one of the first Motocross Fox factory riders. I raced for Husqvarna, Yamaha, a bunch of different companies, and had a great motorcycle racing career in the 70s. And that's right about when Harley actually went to building the worst motorcycles I ever built with the AMF. Taking over Harley in 1971. So in the 70s, I remember it was a real struggle because almost every Harley we sold needed so much warranty work. And it was a real struggle to keep the customers happy because the bikes were, they were breaking down with 1,000, 2,000 miles on them. The gasoline turned into real crap. So the old Harley engines ran really good on Sunoco 260 with lead in it. But then when they went to the unleaded gas with not as much octane, the motors would ping and burn valves and smoke and it was a whole era there of transition that basically brought the Japanese bikes to life because the smaller engines that ran good on crappy fuel with the smaller pistons and smaller displacement basically ran way better. They were more reliable. So, but my dad actually sold Suzukis back then, which kind of got us through the 70s because we sold hundreds of Suzukis. And Skidoo snowmobiles and the dirt bikes and Husqvarnas and all that kind of stuff. And we weren't really Harley was kind of almost a brand where you could buy a Harley franchise for next to nothing because they didn't even know if they were going to last another year or two at the late 70s.
Yeah, so your father basically took a chance opening up a Harley-Davidson.
And basically when I quit racing professionally in like '83 and realized that you know, my dad just didn't have the temperament anymore to bring us into the 80s and 90s. He kind of was old school, where if you gave him a hard time, he'd rather throw you out than make you happy. And
Yeah.
he ran it like old dealers ran a lot of things back then. It was my way or the highway, and I mean, that was okay when there was only one motorcycle dealer within 300 miles.
Right,
but,
right.
At that time, now we have O'Toole's opening up, we have Woodstock, we have a lot of competition, a lot of metric brands open up everywhere. So I've seen where if I wasn't going to start paying attention to what's going on around here, I might not have a dealership, in the future.
Gotta keep up with the times, right?
Yeah, and Harley gave us a lot of training at that point, because in 1982, Harley took back over from AMF, turned the quality around, and by the mid 80s, the brand just took off and turned into what it is today.
Yeah.
By 1988, there was a list, to buy a new Harley. We were selling every Harley we could. I was lucky enough in the early 80s, because we started selling so many Harleys, to go out and buy them from a lot of other dealers around the country that weren't selling them yet, because it hadn't caught on in a lot of places. So luck would have it, I bought one year I probably bought 100 motorcycles from other dealers, and Harley gave me 100 more the next year. So that's how they allocated you bikes. So I got my allocation up to close to 400 bikes.
Wow.
Which really propelled us through the 90s and 2000s until where it was just really easy to make a living being a motorcycle dealer until 2008.
You have a huge Harley-Davidson dealership here with
Yes.
parts and service and retail and everything, and you also have another part where you sell like
the metric stuff.
Yeah.
Suzuki, Yamaha, Honda. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a little soft. It's been a little soft the last 4 or 5 years. The metric brand, a lot because everyone's buying everything online.
Yeah.
For really cheap prices, and Harley, actually, one thing they do really good is they don't let their dealers sell online or on eBay or anything like that. So and they do a lot of price protection, that kind of stuff. Right now, as you see, I was just with an architect. We're planning on expanding the showroom, probably 1/3 bigger than it is now.
Wow.
So we probably have 100 bikes on display.
Wow.
Also, we're making a really huge motor clothes area, changing our service write-up area, getting a customer lounge, doing a long-awaited and facial on the front of the building. So it's going to look actually kind of designing after his first Harley dealership, what it looked like, which was a brick front. Which was way smaller than this, but kind of giving it like an old red brick look. And then we're putting a big addition out back for storage. And a lot of people are intimidated about coming to a Harley dealership. People have never been in a Harley dealership. They see bikers with beards and tattoos,
that whole persona.
The whole persona.
Yeah.
And they're scared.
Yeah.
And when they come in here, they kind of feel they kind of feel that it's really not what they thought it was really going to be like.
No, these people are doctors and lawyers and reporters, and they're all just like you and me. They may dress down for the weekend and hop on their bike, but they are just like you and me, and they are the most charitable, kindest, most. I respect them to the fullest, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
I'm right there with you.
Well, you're one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic example.
Right there with you. Pat, congratulations on the 60th anniversary.
Yep.
And I look forward to all the other events coming up, and I thank you for sitting down with me today.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure.
Let me kiss you.
Jim Moroney built a company. He built it all up from bicycles to motorcycles. When one talks of Harley-Davidsons, you can bet that Moroney name is in the same sentence. A history like no other, and a company that is 60 years strong and still going. Until next time, keep the rubber side down. I'm Donna Kessler for My Ride Garage.